Alright, so as promised, today we're going to be talking about Cooper Flagg. If you're new to the channel, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Go and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. We cover a lot of things basketball. Usually we have a focus on the Utah Jazz and just any topics that most mainstream media doesn't end up covering, but still seem to be major stories to me nevertheless, or those that follow the channel. And I do take suggestions in the comments, so go ahead and if you have one, drop it below. But like I said, we're going to be discussing what I think of Cooper Flagg thus far. Now, at the time of me making this video, we're 3 games in, and I think one of the most telling games that he will end up playing in his lone year in college at Duke University was just played, which was against the Kentucky Wildcats. So we're going to talk about that game specifically, the overall outlook across the 3-game sample size that we have, and what we can expect from him during the duration of the rest of the season, as well as heading into the NBA draft. So Cooper Flagg is a 6'9" wing slash forward out of Newport, Maine. He weighs about 205, 210 pounds, so he's pretty lanky and has a decent bit of size to him. Now, a lot of people think that he's a significant guard prospect by comparison to his brother Ace Flagg, who is more of a forward slash center type of prospect, which is understandable to say. But when you compare Cooper Flagg's game to a lot of the premier people, and when you hear all the glitz and glamour of him being a peak player coming right out of college, he's expected to be so terrific. And then you see the tape where he's playing against some of the best guys on Team USA last year as part of the whole initiative to prep everybody for the Olympics, you get the idea that he's just one of those guys. He's one of one. He's him. And while I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not a him variant, I would like to push back a little bit and say that there's a little bit of reasonable flaw to his game that we have to recognize. We can't just sit here and go out on a limb and say, oh yes, with the star-studded rosters that are going to be available from a player standpoint coming into this upcoming draft class for 2025, Cooper Flagg is the clear number one, because I've said before, and I'll continue to say until data shows me otherwise, I think that him and Ace Bailey are neck and neck, and a lot of times I actually favor Ace Bailey. Now, one thing that Cooper Flagg does really well is defense. Across this 3-game sample size, of course, where the most impressive game, again, was against the Kentucky Wildcats. Yes, they played the Army. Yes, they haven't had bad outings. But in this small sample size, he's averaging 1.7 blocks and 1.7 steals, which can be really telling, especially when you take into account the fact that he's only averaging 2 personal fouls a game while playing basically 30 minutes a night, which in my opinion is quite impressive. It's really telling about his just intent on that side of the ball, because you have a lot of guys where yes, they can get to a bucket, but because they can get to a bucket, they take it chill on defense. They don't necessarily exert themselves too much. They don't make the right reads. They're okay with making mistakes, and they just kind of shrug their shoulders and just keep on keeping on because they know they're going to get the ball on offense. He remains very disciplined on that side of the ball. I love the way that he bodies things up. He doesn't reach too heavy, but he does reach enough. Obviously, that leads to his 1.7 steals. Loves to get his hands in the passing lanes, and he loves to pin a shot off the glass. He's not likely to send it out of bounds, but as soon as he sees somebody going to the rim and they think it's a cupcake, yeah, he likes eating those, and he likes cleaning up the glass, keeping the plate clean, let me tell you that much. Now, looking at the overall metrics, a lot of people, I'm a big numbers guy as well. 19 points, 10 rebounds, 3.3 assists, shooting 45.5% from the field. Now, that shooting is pretty solid overall, especially when you take into account the fact that he's averaging 14.7 shot attempts per game, which means he's making about 6.5, almost 7 a game. However, 3-point range is where things start getting a little bit ugly, because now we're talking about him shooting 23.1% across this 3-game sample size, and he's shooting 4.3 per game. The reason why I draw this as a concern and not as, oh, he's a shooter that's just in a slump, is because the way his shooting motion looked. Even against the Kentucky Wildcats specifically, there were 2 plays in particular. One specifically, he ends up catching the ball on the right wing. A screen gets set for him. He does a light, like a rhythm dribble, going to the left, going towards the center of the court. Nobody steps up over the screen, so he decides to shoot, and the way his hand placement was on the ball and the motion in which his arms just raised seemed a little bit clunky. It didn't seem fluid. It didn't seem like he was sure of himself in that moment, like that was a shot he definitely wanted to take. And consequently, he missed kind of long. Now, the rebound was collected by their own teammates and swung to him, who was now wide open again, a little bit deeper down on the right wing. And this time he shot it with more confidence, but again, it didn't go. It missed hard, and the ball this time went out of bounds. Now, that's not to sit here and say that every single shot looks that way, but for the most part, his misses don't look like shooters' misses. His shot motion doesn't look like a person that loves shooting threes or is extremely comfortable shooting threes. It just kind of looks like that's the shot that he thinks he should take in a particular situation, and so he shoots it. The issue is it just hasn't gone in enough. It's now thus far only 13 three-pointers. Now, again, he's only hit 1 per game, so he's hit 3 out of 13, which is abysmal. But overall, from a field goal standpoint, he's shooting 20 of 44, which is really good, especially considering his shot diet where he has a lot of middies in his bag. Now, he loves to get to the rim. He likes to get to a floater. He likes to get out on the fast break and run, which I really, really love, because there's nothing better than seeing somebody who's long, rangy, and not only can they create turnovers themselves, but when their teammates have a turnover, they're just as engaged to help create mismatches against the opposing team where you have 2-on-1s, or if it's a 2-on-1 in favor of the opposing team that just turned the ball over, he now makes it a 2-on-2, and with his athleticism and length, he's able to get into positions for lobs or just to finish through contact at the rim because of his superior size and strength. I would like to sit there and say that overall his performance has seemed like a B to me, maybe a B plus, just because I really like the way he plays defense. Offensively, again, there's some stuff that he definitely needs to work on. But from a standpoint of being a turnover prone, he's averaging 2.3 a game. He's averaging more assists than turnovers. I like to think for guys like him that are wings that aren't expected to be the greatest passers of the basketball, can you at the very least at the college level, at a high level school, give me a 1-to-1 ratio? If we're talking about you're turning the ball over 2.5, 3 times a game and you're averaging 1 assist or 0.8 assists, then it's like, okay, are you giving me that return on value defensively? Or is your efficiency offensively from a shooting standpoint really making that much of a difference to where it's like, you know what, I kind of have to let this go because he's just a literal bucket. And when it comes to Cooper Flagg, I feel comfortable with the way that he plays thus far. I realize that he loves to do a little bit of a tween cross to get into open space, particularly in the mid-range. He likes to use his length to find space. He loves a good turnaround jumper, and he's not afraid to get into somebody's body and get into somebody's chest more specifically. Now, he doesn't really move anybody when he does that, and sometimes the issue becomes that he finds himself out of control, or he finds him planted in a position where it's hard to recover from, or it's hard to get a clean shot off. And so we've seen a couple times where the turnovers that he had hasn't come from passes. It hasn't come from him making bad reads. It may just come from him going downhill, expecting a call and not getting it, or him going to the chest of the defender off of a spin move and just losing the ball on the way in there, or somebody diving down, digging in as he spins and just swatting that thing out, which does happen to tall players, does happen and is expected considering the fact that he is 6'9". Yes, he is a high-level player, but again, he's playing against high-level competition. And I think playing against the Kentucky Wildcats was really a good measuring stick for him, because it's going to be one of those teams where no matter who you're playing, no matter what team it is, the Kentucky Wildcats are going to bring it, especially from a guard standpoint. They're going to make you work. Defensively, they're going to make you work. There's not going to be anything easy, and especially when you have blue blood versus blue blood, it's always going to be a dogfight, and that's the thing that you really want to see. Ironically enough, the first team that they played against was Maine, and he ended up shooting 6 of 15 now when he played a decent game. He shot 0-4 from three-point range, so that wasn't good, but he was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, and he shot well from that standpoint. He also had his season high of assists so far, starting out with 5, and then he also played 30 minutes in that one. They won that game 96-62. So light work, no reaction. He just didn't hit a lot of shots. Then we go into the game against the Army. They won 158. It was a blowout. He played 25 minutes, 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 4 from three-point range in that one, so pretty respectable sample size, pretty good shot selection. 1 of 3 from the free throw line, not too much to think about. 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, and only 2 turnovers. By the way, he also had 2 turnovers in that first game. Then you have the most recent game where they ended up actually losing to the University of Kentucky Wildcats, where they played and lost 72-77. Now in that one, he ended up putting together a sample size across 32 minutes, which is the highest he's played in any game, of 26 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He didn't have any steals in this one, and he did have a season high 3 turnovers. Now the turnovers were him not thinking straight, him driving into traffic and just getting stripped, which was bound to happen. But it wasn't the worst overall performance. He shot 9 of 19 from the field, which works out to 47.5%, which is pretty solid, honestly. And he did shoot 1 of 5 from 3. I did not love all 3-point attempts that he took. And similarly, like I said, those 2 threes on that same possession where he misses the one and his shot motion was kind of funky, then he was wide open. He shot with more confidence, but it just hit and missed hard. Those weren't great looks for him to have, just tanking his percentage overall, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Now in this game, he ended up shooting a season high in overall free throws at 9, where he hit 7 of those, which was pretty solid. And overall, he just looks like he really wants to be out there and he really wants to play hard-nosed basketball, which I can definitely respect and greatly appreciate. Like I said, defense right now seems to be his calling card. I figured it was going to be a big thing for him, but even going to college, there's a lot of players that can get a big hit, or they feel like they don't have to play as hard on that side of the floor because they can get a bucket, because they're guaranteed to get a certain number of shot attempts. But Cooper Flagg seems to understand that not only is defense going to win you games, but he seems to enjoy playing defense. And it's a lot easier to get somebody to do something or to train somebody to do something more effectively if they already enjoy doing said task, instead of having to teach them to fall in love with something or teach them how to like something where they have no affinity for it. And again, this is a small sample size, only 3 games, but the reason why I did think that it was about time for this is because Kentucky is ranked 19th overall in college basketball. It was a battle of the blue bloods, and you're always going to see a good game when those 2 teams go at it. And it's also going to be, in my mind, one of the better measuring sticks that you're going to have for Cooper Flagg and the Duke Blue Devil players overall. Guys like, your Caleb Fosters that are in their return year and are now looking to boost their draft stock and give themselves some more opportunities. And maybe I'll do a video about him specifically at another time, because I actually am very sneaky high on his value. While he may not present the highest, upside compared to most things, but if you're a team where you have a mid to late lottery pick or even a pick around 16 to 24, I think that Caleb Foster could present a lot of value, and you don't have to move up to get him. Cough, cough, Utah Jazz, keep an eye out, because Keontae George isn't really working out, and if you don't give the keys to Isaiah Collier sooner than later, or Colin Sexton, you may be looking for another point guard. But again, Cooper Flagg, overall, I'll give him a B. That's going to be my final mark. I'll give him, if we were going to 1 to 100, I'll give him like an 86. The number of 3-pointers is terrible. The shot selection of said 3-pointers isn't terrible, because those are typically shots that he should be taking, but he just hasn't been canning them the way that he will need to at the next level. So would I say that he's going to sit there and go to the league and just dominate right out the gate? No, not off this 3-game sample size. But would I say he's definitely going to be an impact player day 1? For sure, and that's why he earns a B grade from me right now. And again, I would like to see some more improvement from him. I think that as he gets more acclimated to the college game, things will look more impressive. If he learns to be more decisive with his moves and not charge straight into danger and go right into the lion's den, things will look better for him. But other than that, I'm pretty solidly impressed. I look forward to seeing some more from him. If there's any more players that you guys want me to talk about, break down, or give a little bit of a spotlight on, let me know in the comments below, or just any other teams, because I do enjoy covering as much basketball as possible, and basketball is in full swing. So that means there's going to be loads of more content to come. With that being said, it's your boy Ray Hoops. Thanks for joining this video. If you made it this far, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, become a member, or drop a donation to help support the content. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're in the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.